So we've been talking a lot about the rash of injuries going on in the league, specifically all these Achilles injuries that we've seen. So our next guest is making his first virtual visit to the arena. Award-winning journalist and founder of True Hoop. He led ESPN's 60-person digital and print team, which published several groundbreaking articles and won a National Magazine Award. These days, you can get his new book, Ballistic, The New Science of Injury-Free Athletic Performance. Henry Abbott, welcome to Gil's Arena, presented by Underdog. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Thank you for having me, you guys.
The legend, True Hoop legend. So congrats on the release of your book. We have the cover here for any of the fans who are interested. We want to give you your love first. Make sure the fans can see the copy of the book. Make sure they can go out there and get it in the near future. But I wanted to ask you, what was the inspiration behind writing your new book, Ballistic?
To be totally honest, it was the pandemic, and everything I was writing about was like a bummer. There was no basketball being played. And I've been covering this league since college, and everybody gets hurt, right? I mean, it was, by some measures, it's 100% injury rate in this league. And then I went through my own crap, right? I have a bad back and my hip is weird, and I try to be athletic too, and I just found that we were all kind of getting bad answers. Like you're trying to find some physical therapist or massage therapist or kinesiologist, and nobody knows how to keep healthy. And so I was thinking about that problem, and there's this guy, this Marcus Elliott, this lab called P3 in Santa Barbara. Maybe some of you have been there.
Yep.
But they're taking a really systematic approach to assessing exactly how we move, and they have a giant database of biomechanical movements, and they're teaching people how to avoid injury. And it seemed like a much more sunny thing to think about in the pandemic than all the crap that was going on. So I called them up and asked if they'd let me write a book about them, if they'd participate, and they said yes, and now we're here.
All right, well, we appreciate you and checking that out. So we saw three superstars in Damian Lillard, Jayson Tatum, and Tyrese Haliburton suffer torn Achilles during these NBA playoffs. From your work on this book, what do you think is going on across the NBA? I think there were 7 Achilles injuries this season, 8 if you include the Nassers who suffered, I believe, in the offseason. But what do you think is going on in the league right now with all these Achilles injuries?
So I don't know if when I first dialed in, I was on the phone. That was literally Marcus Elliott, the founder of P3, giving me the update on their latest findings in the data of what they think is going on. And here's what they know, right? So they have 1,200 NBA players, past and present, have gone through there and been assessed. They have 1 million data points per athlete. And what they find basically is every injury they study in detail, there's some kind of biomechanical movement pattern that is upstream. It happens before that, right? And so for ACL tears, the number one thing is landing on the outside of your foot and then having your weight roll to the inside. 100% of NBA players who, in their study, who tore their ACLs land that way, right? What's interesting, though, they haven't done a big Achilles study because they've only had 9. In all of the years they've been doing this, only 9 players have torn their Achilles that they studied. But what's interesting is that same exact movement pattern is associated with the Achilles injury. So they're not willing to say this is something where they have a smoking gun, but it seems like the answer is teaching players how to land, which they find is productive in preventing all kinds of injuries, which they want you to, it's called stiffening your ankle, right? You get stronger muscles in your lower leg, so you're more likely to land on the ball of your foot with the toes up, your ankle strong, your ankle not flopping around, your leg not flopping around. If you land like that, it seems like you're less likely to get all kinds of injuries, and especially this one.
So,
what are we doing? I do a lot of performance training with a lot of the guys I used to teach. I haven't taught in a while, but plyometrics. Is what it sounds like you're telling me as far as what guys need. And I seen that when I think we were in Vegas when we were watching the guys training in the
slam ball.
And then the weight room was seeing, and I was looking and talking to the guys, I think Chicago, the guys, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? You can tell, because I teach landing, I teach ankle flexibility, calf mobility, everything starts from the calf and down and the ankle up. So when you have that strength in those extremities, you can tell that there be no injuries, even in the MCL, PCL, ACL, all of those things. You could get into glute activation with the VMOs, all that stuff. So I look at players now and I look at their frames and I look at when you talk about landing and then explosion right back up, they're not being taught that. They're not even interested in it. They don't understand it. And that's causing a lot of people to stay on the band work and get away from the real explosion and the technique of it all.
Can I ask you a question? Okay, so when you look at these guys and all of the explosions is happening when they're taken off, right? Right, they do the negative step where one leg goes back, then they're trying to push off of it. Track is kind of like the same movement, but no one's tearing their Achilles off the start. So is there something that they need to be following that track is doing for that back support that basketball movement just doesn't do?
You are thinking exactly like the dude who founded P3. He loves, like, every elite track athlete lands with their foot with the toes up, which makes you instantly activate your Achilles and then your quads and your glutes. So the force of landing is spread between these three joints, right? Mm-hmm. In basketball, like, the reason every athlete does that in track is because if you don't, you won't be fast enough to make the Olympics, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is the way to move fast. In basketball, you might make it to the league with a good handle, good court vision, being a bunch of ways, right? You don't have to be good at this exact thing to make it. So, but that's what you should do. That's how you want to move. All right, just was talking to Marcus about this, and he was saying that, a theory that he would want to investigate is these guys who have had sore calf muscles, right? So they've done something, probably the same biomechanics that threatened their Achilles earlier threatened their calf, right? So they've hurt something, they've strained something, which means that the muscles that should absorb, like, the force of that tough landing behind you and slow your foot down as it goes into dorsiflexion, they call it, they're not slowing it down. So your foot is, your lower leg is flying into this extreme position at a higher speed, which puts more force in your Achilles than if you had those muscles working properly.
I found also that that muscle stabilization for those ankle and those calf fibers come with activating all of those weak muscles. So a lot of times when you land, you got those weak muscles on those explosion points because you don't know how to work those muscles yet, right? Especially if you're not training, just like golf. Mm-hmm. You start swinging the wrong way, you wake up in the morning, your shit fucked up, you feel paralyzed. Mm-hmm. But once you start doing it enough, you strengthening those weaker muscles that even when you sprain your ankle, if you got enough ankle strength, you can bounce right back up, right? And even if you do a mid sprain or a mild sprain, you can be full strength in the morning if you ice and do it right. That's if you've already been training it. So I think the guys that went away from a lot of the plyometrics that I learned in high school, that we carried on in college, that it was free for us to do in the pros because now you got your own regimen. But now I don't know what these guys are doing because a lot of the guys aren't as explosive as they should be, not based on their natural given abilities, but the shit that you've worked towards, that training shit. Like, you got what you came in here with, but what did you build on? Let's see what the build was now. Like, I don't see none of that. So I think that's a lot of maintenance for injury prevention is one thing, but if you're not building to be stronger, it's gonna fuck up.
What about those insoles in your shoes that make your feet stronger, right?
So there's a whole chapter of the book about shoes, and basically, like,
it's a good question. I'm just being real.
Nothing's good. Like, the shoe research, there is not research that shoes have ever prevented a sports injury, right? They might, but it hasn't been researched that way. And, like, for a lot of the exercises that they do at P3, they have NBA players in there working out really hard, but they ask you to take your shoes off because a lot of shoes put your heel up and your toes down, which increases injury risk for explosive landings from the jump off. So, yeah, I mean, shoes are kind of a sad story, and I think that we'll have better stuff in the future once they really start doing biomechanical research about, like, what actually correlates with, like, better performance and healthier athletes. But right now, I don't think we have good research on it, and I think everyone's kind of making it up.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you just think about it in history, like, most of the guys who actually get off the ground with explosion, nothing there. It's usually guys that are in the middle of taking off. Right? So when you think about the Jordans and all these guys who's flying,
strong ass ankles.
Right? Their ankles are strong as shit, for them to go up and come down and go. So it's like there's nothing there, but it's on taking off. So it's like
They was playing on feet.
it's like, you know, should you focus more on like working on your feet movement, right? Working on your feet stability, like doing a lot of sand work and strengthening up those ligaments around the foot.
LeBron just needed.
Because that's what I said. I ran track
Sauce, man.
in high school, so I was track before basketball. So the things that we did, walking on our heel to strengthen up our shins, so we didn't have shin splints. So I'm thinking about all those movements we didn't do as a group in the NBA. And I'm like, well, I didn't have ankle sprains. I never wore tape, but my ankles are strong enough because I always did the same exercises. So I'm trying to figure out if they start implementing those back in, could that help? I don't know.
I think the answer is yes. I think it's exactly that. Everything the track guys do is good, right? Everybody at P3, they start with a dowel test. So you take like a piece of metal on the ground, and then you just jump horizontal back and forth across it as many times as you can in 8 seconds. And if they see that you're landing well with your toes up and you're absorbing force in your hips, etc., then you move to bigger plyometrics. Eventually, after weeks and months, you get to like 5 tall plyometric boxes in a row, like 48 inches or whatever, and you just go boing. You don't even touch them. You just jump clear over them all in a row. Yeah. Massive forces, right? If you don't land with good form, this would cause an injury. But they want you to train that, right? They want you to be neurologically elite in how you put your feet on the ground and how you absorb force and how you spring to the next one. And once you get that real training, which is built on weeks and months and years, then you're ready to prevent injuries, right? Now you're ready to attempt a layup, get bumped in the air, and then put your foot out in a way that you don't even think about, but that's not going to tear your Achilles or your ACL.
So Commissioner Adam Silver was asked about all these Achilles injuries going on in the league before the draft yesterday, and here was his answer.
We are looking at it, and in fact, we had already convened a panel of experts before Tyrese's most recent Achilles rupture. So we had 7 this year. We had 0 last year under the exact same circumstances. And the most we've ever had in a season is 4. NFL has had a rash of Achilles issues as well. So the purpose of convening those experts is to try to figure out what's going on. It's interesting, when we look back at the last 10 years, the majority of the Achilles injuries have happened before the All-Star break. So it's not clear it's the number of games. And as you know, modern NBA players, even when they're not playing games, sometimes in the summer, they're working harder than they are during the season when they're playing 3 games a week. They're often playing every day. Some experts think it may have more to do with youth basketball. It may have as much to do with what they do from 10 to 19. Increasingly, they're single sport athletes. These guys train also harder than when I talk to veteran players now. I was talking to Andre Iguodala the other day, the head of the Players Association. He's saying he's counseling a lot of these players that they need more rest on their body in the off season. I mean, you've got guys working out 3 times a day. So I'm hopeful that by looking at more data, by looking at patterns, this is one area where AI, people are talking about how that's going to transform so many areas. The ability with AI to ingest all video that of every game a player has played in, to see if you can detect there's some pattern that we didn't realize that leads to an Achilles injury, whether it's associated with calf injuries. We really don't know, but we're taking it very seriously.
So we heard what Adam Silver said, but Henry, I got to ask you, how preventable are most of the injuries that we are seeing today?
A lot. I mean, a lot of things are preventable. I don't want to make fun of Adam. I think he's a good commissioner and everything, but didn't it seem a little like he was like, oh, it's youth basketball.
It's everybody else's fault but them.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's the NFL. Come on, just turn off the lawyer for a second. You know what I mean? It's also possible playing NBA basketball causes Achilles injuries, right? It happened on TV. We saw it.
10 to 19. 10 to 19. Before we come to the league. No, I get it.
But yeah, the league also has a 10-year relationship with this place P3 I wrote the book about, and I think this panel is going to find out that the best way to ascertain what happens to cause injuries is the place that's 30 years into studying that exact thing with granular movement data, right? It's not going to be, they're not going to find the answer from an epidemiologist, in population studies and whatever they're going to use. They're going to find it from exactly how Tyrese Haliburton puts his foot down and how his hips bend and all this stuff in the weeks and months and years before, right? This is where the trainable preventions are for all of these things. So it's coming. Like, I think this is coming to all of us a whole different way. We're not going to use MRIs anymore to figure out who's at injury risk. We're going to use how healthy players move and see, just like we do with heart attacks, right? If you go to the doctor now, they know if you're at risk for a heart attack 10 years before, and they start addressing it before, right? We're going to start doing that with these injuries. They're already doing it in Santa Barbara, right, for a bunch of NBA players right now, where we're just going to look and see, look, your big risk is in your right hip, or someone else's big risk might be in their left calf, but they're going to train you away from your biggest risk thing so that we won't get injuries down to zero. But there's a guy named Jeremy Bettle who's in the book who took this kind of practice to the NHL team in Toronto, and they had zero, with all these screenings all the time, and they kept checking how everyone's moving, and they had zero non-contact injuries during the years he was there. So, like, I think we can have way fewer injuries in sports if we do this smarter.
Well, I hope we do, Henry, because obviously we enjoy watching high-level basketball with high-level players, so I hate to see all these guys that are going to be missing extended time entering this year. But we appreciate you so much for taking time out of your schedule to pull up the Gills Arena presented by Underdog. Whoop, whoop. Everybody, make sure you go grab the book Ballistic. Available now wherever you get your books. Henry Abbott, the legend. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank you very much. That was fun.
True hoop. They know ball.